Hey everyone, I'm Armor Gaming, welcome back to my channel, and in this video I'm going to be talking about what monsters I think are worth buying. So use this video as a reference point whenever Social Point decides to give us any sort of monster sell, whether it be a crazy monster week sell, or whether they give us different combo sells or just individual monster sells. Use this video to your benefit. Now by no means am I going to be talking about every single monster, I'm just going to be going through the different elements and trying my best to tell you guys what monsters I think are worth buying, which is pretty much just going to be the monsters that stick out the most. So I want to be really clear about this point. If I don't speak about a monster, it doesn't mean that monster isn't worth buying necessarily, it just means that monster didn't really stick out as of the time I was making the video. And especially when there are so many monsters, look at this, there's over 170 legendary monsters, it's kind of hard to talk about every single one. So I'm just going to do my best to focus on individual monsters that really stand out. And there's a few things I need to say before I actually start talking about the monsters. First of all, I think one of the best times to buy monsters is when they cost 225 gems. That's usually the lowest a legendary monster will go. When monsters are on sale for 276 gems, to me that doesn't really seem like a good offer. However, there are some monsters that might be worth getting even at that price, but for a lot of them, if you can just be patient and just wait for them to cost 225 gems, you can save yourself over 50 gems. But being able to wait until that particular monster you want goes on sale, that can be rather difficult, so at the end of the day, you have to decide what's best for you. But once again, my main advice is just to wait for the monster to go on sale for 225 gems. The second thing I want to say is to buy the monster you want to buy. Whatever monster you've been waiting for, whatever monster you think would make you happy, go ahead and buy that monster. Who cares if people tell you it's no good? Who cares if people tell you that monster sucks, it doesn't do good in player versus player or adventure map or team wars? Who cares? Just go ahead and buy the monster. It's your game, it's your profile. If buying that monster will make you happy, go ahead and just buy that monster. And let's be honest, as far as player versus player, you can pretty much put any monster in there, give them some high level runes, and it's gonna be a good monster. The great thing about player versus player is that you get to pick your battles, so realistically there's really no way you can lose. It might take you a while to find a team you can beat, but still you can go in with any monster you want. And the third advice that I give for people when contemplating what monster to buy is to buy the monster that's going to benefit you the most. For example, if a breeding event is coming up, maybe if you don't have the monster that you need for that breeding event, maybe you should get your hands on that monster. Or say for example you're stuck in an adventure map and you really want to pass adventure map, maybe you should buy a monster that's going to help you clear adventure map. Or if you really want to do well and help your team out in team wars, but you're missing a metal monster or a thunder monster, maybe before buying any other monster element, you should get yourself a Thundered Metal monster. So with that advice being said, let's jump into the fire category. One of the most amazing fire monsters that stands out is Shelnar. Shelnar has the fastest base speed for fire monsters along with General Darmith. She also has a really high power of 3432 and her trait is immune to stun, which is amazing on a fire monster. And on top of that, if you look at her skills, she has Inner Fire, she gains an extra turn and gives herself double damage. And you look at Flame Piercer, it's a 60 damage, 0 cooldown skill. So if you're ever going up against a Timerion in Team Wars, if it's fire and metal, this is certainly a top tier monster. Another fire monster that stands out is Greedy Dragon. Although he doesn't necessarily have the highest power for fire monsters, he does have a really good speed, having the second highest speed stat for fire monsters. His trait is not so good, it's energized, that means he's capable of being burned by other fire monsters, but his skills are rather amazing. Most amazing is probably his skill, the Magnificent, gains damage boost and 1 extra turn. So even though this monster doesn't have the highest power, because he can give himself an initial damage boost as well as an extra turn, he can certainly pack a punch. Especially when you look at skills like Fire Drake and Gold Lust, which deals 60 damage. To sweeten things up a bit, Gold Lust is a special damage based skill, not a fire damage based skill, so this will really help against other fire monsters and you recover life. And if you're still not convinced buying Greedy Dragon is worth it, just look at Rain of Fire. Deals heavy fire damage, may stun target, requires cooldown, so this is a fire monster with a single stun skill. Best of all, this is a really fast fire monster with a single stun skill. And this is especially important because no fire monster besides Shadowling one's immune to stun. So Greedy Dragon is another top tier fire monster worth buying. And then we have the all powerful Mega Ostium with a power of 3575, third highest power stat for fire monsters, life a little lower than average, speed a little above average, but that doesn't matter because he's an attacker and as long as you have a deny monster, attackers are free just to have a high power, strong skills, and they can do their thing. His trait is immune to burning, so against fire monsters this does come in handy, but just keep in mind I did mention Greedy Dragon, he's faster than Mega Ostium and has a stun skill, so that's an advantage Greedy Dragon has over Mega Ostium, but Mega Ostium is really focused more on dealing damage, and that's especially made clear when we look at some of his skills. He has Bone Chomp, the special base skill, deals 60 damage with no cooldown. Again, another perfect choice against Timerion. Looking at his AoEs, he has Cataclysm, a 45 damage AoE with only a 2 turn cooldown. Asteroids, a 30 damage AoE that also burns all targets. This monster can give himself double damage, increased accuracy, and recover 50% of his stamina points. And to top things off, he also has Stunning Gob, 45 damage, 1 turn cooldown stunning skill. Even though he's an attacker, you never know when an immobilizing skill can come in handy. So now we're going to move things on to nature monsters, and we start things off with Serra. The main important thing about Serra is her speed. Tied with Lamu, she is the fastest nature monster. To top things off, she has a pretty good trait, immune to stun. And Serra is probably most famous for her red wool shield, gives damage boost, immunity to freeze, and immunity to stun. I've said this in the past multiple times, the fact that Serra is faster than just about every other immobilizer that can freeze or stun, that means you can give her all speed runes, your opponent can have all speed runes. If Serra goes first and she starts the game off with this skill, you're basically making the enemy immobilizer useless. Of course the enemy immobilizer will still be able to deal damage, but most of the time they're running off speed runes, so that damage won't be that much, and then all of your monsters will still get a turn in. And it's nice that this skill gives them a little damage boost. But Serra is also capable of packing a punch herself, especially with Woolly Smash. It's a 0 cooldown stun skill. Woolly Crush, a 2 turn cooldown 50 damage skill that not only stuns, but it also gives Serra energy regeneration. And Healing Glove. She deals 50 damage and she heals herself by 30%, so she's really a self-sustaining monster, one of the best nature monsters in my opinion. If you're in the market for a nature monster, Serra is definitely a top choice. And next we have the Judgment, and I can't really say whether this monster is actually worth buying or not. I do feel the need to bring him up because he's probably the best nature attacker we have, and even that can be debated, but this monster does have the highest power of all the nature monsters at 3542. His trait, not so good, gives immunity to poison. I guess if you're a nature monster it is kinda good because lots of nature monsters can poison you and that does reduce your power, so maybe it's not fair to completely discount it. As far as skills go, you have a 45 damage 4 turn cooldown AoE, you have a 2 turn cooldown 65 damage special base skill, you have a skill that deals 50 damage but gives the Judgment life regeneration, which will certainly come in handy, and you have this skill, Inhumane Knuckles, which deals 50 damage but you recover 30% of your life. So this monster can be rather hard to kill while also dealing an insane amount of damage out. So if you're in the market for a nature attacker, the Judgment may be the way to go. For this monster I really would recommend that you wait until he costs 225 gems. I really wouldn't spend 276 gems for him, but again, at the end of the day it's your choice. If you don't want to spend gems on a nature attacker or even spend gems on Serra, then I highly urge everyone to check out General Altis, which will probably be available in the team shop. This is another good monster that's really hard to kill and that can be used as an attacker. And I also recommend people to check out Lao Mu, who's a breedable legendary monster. The only exception is that you need Galante, another legendary monster, to actually breed her, but she's a phenomenal nature monster. So if you want to save yourself some gems, just go ahead and breed Lao Mu or get General Altis from the team shop. Moving things along to the Earth category, we have Oros. Now Oros is probably most recognized for his life, 40,112. This is the highest life not only in Earth monsters, but of all legendary monsters. It's phenomenal. Unfortunately, with great life comes rather slow speed, 2,772. This is really poor. The good thing about Oros though is that he can't be stunned and he can't be frozen. He was the first monster to have the mountain trait. Now Oros is what we call a true tank. Just look at this skill. Temporarily doubles Oros' maximum life capacity. All single enemy attacks are always directed towards him, requires cooldown. And especially when comboed with this skill, returns 100% of incoming damage to an enemy, requires cooldown. So he can double his life, direct all attacks to him, and then return 100% of all the damage he receives. And to top things off, he can give himself life regeneration, as well as give himself a 30% shield whenever he may need it. And even though a 30% shield may not seem like much, when you look at this monster's life again, and when you consider the fact that you'll probably be giving him some life runes, that really is significant. Oros is a really good monster to put on defense for Team Wars because he's really hard to kill. And before I forget, he also has Global Stomp, crushes all enemies. There is a chance they will be instantly defeated. I'm sure many of us have had that experience where it was 3 against 1, 3 of our monsters versus 1 Oros. That Oros was 1 turn away from dying, maybe had no stamina. It went to his turn, which is kind of funny considering how slow he is and how long it takes for him to actually get a turn. But anyways, it gets to his turn, he happens to get his ultimate, Global Stomp, and enemy wins the game. It's happened to me plenty of times, so Oros is a really good Earth monster to buy. And then we have Brontes, and stats wise, there's nothing too good about Brontes. His stats are rather mediocre all around, especially his speed. It's actually slower than average for Earth monsters. Luckily, he does have a trait immune to stun, and lots of Earth monsters have stun skills, so at least there's a high chance he will get a turn in. But also depending how you build them, lots of players like to give him all speed runes, and that's particularly because of his skills. Specifically, Mega Rock Slide deals moderate earth damage, may stun target, requires cooldown. What you see here, it's not a regular stun, it's a Mega Stun, which no monster is immune to, of course except for Timerion and Totem, but any other monster, no one is immune to Mega Stun, and this stuns a monster for 2 full turns. So even though Brontes doesn't necessarily have the fastest speed, because you will be giving this monster 3 speed runes, he will most likely always be faster than the enemy Earth monster for Team Wars, and he can immobilize whatever monster he's going up against. Now of course, if it's immobilizer against immobilizer, and it's and other elements, typically immobilizers tend to have a faster base speed than bronzes, so you gotta be careful with that. As far as deny skills, he also has Aerial Rock Slide, which is an AoE stun, so another really good earth monster to buy. And now I'm gonna talk about thunder monsters, and if some of you are upset that I didn't talk about more earth monsters, keep in mind, this is not an all-comprehensive guide. These are just the monsters that to me stand out. Yes, there are plenty of good earth monster attackers. Some of you might be thinking Deadwolf right off the bat, but once again, this guide is just my guide of monsters that really stand out. And the only way for an attacker to stand out to me is if that attacker is someone like Voltic. Voltic, if you're not familiar with him yet, you probably will be after just one match with him, and really his stats don't even matter too much. One good thing about him is his trait is hardened, so there is a 20% chance you might miss the stun or you might miss the freeze, and if you do, that is terrible. Because when you look at Voltic's skills, take a look at this: 50k volts, extra churn, 20k volts, extra churn, electrodynamic assaults, extra churn, and static shocks, extra churn. This, by the way, is also like a miniature AoE. It deals moderate damage to one target and then residual damage to the rest of the targets. So Voltic is most famous for having 4 extra churn skills, so if he's on defense for Team Wars and he gets a churn in, he's gonna attack your whole team until it gets wiped out or until it gets his ultimate, and it's primarily due to electrodynamic assaults. It's an extra churn skill with no cooldown, so he always has a churn to use. Even if the enemy has Timerion and those cooldowns activated, that doesn't matter. Electrodynamic assaults, then you're free to use 20k volts or static shocks, electrodynamic assaults again, and you can just cycle over and over again. Voltic has definitely been a game changer. There are very few monsters I say that are must-haves, and Voltic is one of them. Whether this monster costs 225 gems, 250 gems, or 276 gems, I would definitely say buy Voltic. The next 3 monsters I'm going to talk about, which are all thunder monsters, they pretty much serve the same purpose: Dr. Victor, Tempest, and Nexor. All 3 of these monsters I would say are worth buying, and primarily it's because they have an AoE stun skill, which for a long time was really rare for thunder monsters. There was a long time where thunder monsters didn't have an immobilizer, well now they do, and they have 3 of them. Now the one thing about Dr. Victor is his speed. It's not as fast as Tempest or Nexor, so if you're planning to use him to deny an enemy monster, you gotta make sure you're faster than the enemy. And if you're thinking, why do you need Dr. Victor? Why do you need Tempest? Why do you need Nexor? Why do you need a thunder immobilizer if you have Voltic? And my answer to everyone who's thinking that way is that you really have to stop and think about the game. Attackers, just as a default, aren't that good. They are only good because they have a teammate to help them out. Can you imagine a team war where it was common, fire, and thunder? Currently, fire doesn't have any immobilizers. So if you're picking a fire attacker, say like Shelinar, and then a thunder monster like Voltic, and then your common is just a common, and your enemy has a Tempest on defense who's going to be running all speed runes, chances are he is going to stun your whole team. Yes, Voltic has the hardened trait, so he may not be stunned, but if he is stunned, you're in trouble. You're probably going to lose the match. So you really do need deny monsters, and that's why Dr. Victor could be one of the top choices for you. Now yes, Dr. Victor is a little slower than Nexor or Tempest, but he does have the AoE stun skill, and on top of that he has AC/DC area. It's an AoE burn and an AoE blind. So specifically if you plan to use Dr. Victor on defense, this can help you out even more, because you never know what the AI is going to do. So at the very least, you can put a monster on defense that has 2 really good AoE skills. So even if the AI doesn't start off with AoE stun, there's at least a high chance it might do AoE blind and burn, which will also really help you out. As for Tempest, the reason you'd want to buy him is because of his speed, 3465, and it's the exact same thing with Nexor. Nexor has 3465. Nexor also has the trait hardened, so again there's a 20% chance status effects will miss against him. Tempest on the other hand doesn't have that, however he is immune to blind. As for their skills, Tempest has a 40 damage AoE stun skill, and if you look at Tempest's other skills, 60 damage, 1 turn cooldown in days, 65 damage, 1 turn cooldown, Tempest can pretty much be an attacker or a deny monster. You configure him to your liking. He also has flashing strike, 30 damage AoE blind skill, whereas Nexor has paralyzing shockwaves, 30 damage AoE stun skill. He has jolt spear, may apply 100% damage reduction to a single target, which can be extremely helpful. So between the 3 thunder deny monsters, it's really up to you which one you want to buy. Feel free to discuss in the comments below which one of these 3 thunder monsters you think is the best. And now we're gonna move on to water monsters, and with water monsters there's really no wrong choice. There's only a bunch of right choices. There are so many good water monsters. The water element in Monster Legends just completely dominates the game. So we're gonna start things off with Frostbite, who surprisingly has a really good power for being a deny monster. This is actually the 3rd highest power stat for water monsters. His life is a little lower than average, and his speed, it's also not that amazing, 3421. There are just a majority of water monsters that are way faster than Frostbite. To top things off, he also doesn't have the best trait, Energized, 20% extra energy. You know water monsters, they have a ton of free skills, so you might be wondering, how does a monster that isn't fast, isn't immune to freeze, how is he so good? Well, it all has to do with Frostbite's skills. Glacial Snowstorm removes 100% of stamina from a target, may freeze targets, requires cooldown. This is an AoE free skill that also drains 100% stamina from a single monster. So the reason Frostbite dominates as being one of the best deny monsters is because of this skill. No one is immune to stamina drain, which means whatever monster you use this on, they're going to lose all their stamina. Even if you're going up against a monster that's immune to freeze, well, you can just target them with Glacial Snowstorm and they'll lose their stamina, so they'll still be immobilized. Now of course there is a chance they may get their special, but that doesn't happen too often. So 100% stamina plus an AoE in a single skill, we look up to Piercing Rainfall, a 40 damage AoE free skill. Keep in mind, you can freeze back to back. It's not like stun where you have to wait one turn, you can freeze back to back. We look back down to Icy Leech, removes 100% of stamina from target, gains 40 stamina, so he has another mobilizing skill where he drains 100% of stamina from the enemy monster, and on top of that he recovers his own stamina by 40%. And if you thought this monster couldn't possibly get any more amazing, just look at Arctic Boost. May give double damage to all allies, adds 50% of stamina to all allies, requires cooldown. So this is also supportive monster. Deny monster, supportive monster, also has a really high power. What more can you want? Frostbite is incredible. Like Voltig, this is another monster I would say, whether he costs 225 gems, 250, 276 gems, I would buy him for that price. The next monster I wanted to take a look at was Cavenfish. By no means does Cavenfish have a high power, nor the highest life. His speed however is pretty good, there's only 4 water monsters faster than him, and his trait is immune to freeze. So this becomes even more important because some of those water monsters that are faster than him, they only have a freeze skill, so they won't even be able to immobilize Cavenfish. And Frostbite is probably most well known for having this. Round Rain, it's an AoE free skill, and he also has Bullet Rain, it's an AoE stun skill. So that makes Frostbite a lot more versatile, but specifically because he's a water monster and lots of water monsters are immune to freeze, the only water monster immune to stun is Varna, this monster is incredibly helpful in Team Wars. To top things off a little bit, this monster does have a faster base speed than General Thetis. General Thetis, as you know, has her skill Stamina Devours, which drains all of the stamina from the enemy monsters, so one really good way to counter that is also with Cavenfish, because of Corsair Offensive, it removes 50% of stamina from the target. So General Thetis has tough, there's a 35% chance you won't be able to stun her or you won't be able to freeze her, but at least you'll be able to drain her stamina, thus preventing her from doing Stamina Devours. But one more great thing about Cavenfish for those of you that use this skill, Lead Rain. It's a 50% chance of stunning, but it's an AoE. And normally I'm so against 50% chance of doing anything, but there have been so many times when I've used Timerion against Cavenfish and done cooldowns activated, and then the enemy Cavenfish did Lead Rain and they were able to immobilize my other 2 monsters. So even though it's only a 50% chance, that little chance to stun is better than no chance to stun. Cavenfish is another really amazing water monster that I would consider buying. And then we have Kaolic, and as of the time making this video, there are only 2 water monsters faster than Kaolic, which is amazing, especially because she is also immune to freeze. But one really good thing about Kaolic is that she is like the perfect counter to Cavenfish. 1, because she has a faster base speed, and 2, because of protection of the northern winds. Very similar to Sarah, Kaolic has a skill that gives immunity to freeze and stun, but this also gives the whole team an immunity to daze, whereas Sarah gave a damage boost. So considering how fast Kaolic is, whether she's going up against an earth monster with an AoE stun, or a water monster with a freeze or a stun, protection of the northern winds is going to be able to help out your whole team, thus rendering the enemy immobilizer useless. If that's not enough for you, Kaolic also has an AoE free skill herself, Permafrost, Glacial Prison, a single free skill. Although that 3-turn cooldown is a little high, she also has Polar Prison, Freeze and Daze skill, and Cold Blood, which gives your whole team energy regeneration and precision. Kaolic is a really good supportive / deny monster. And the last monster I thought would be worth talking about, although many people probably won't look at Blob and think he's worth buying, he actually really is worth buying, because in particular situations, Blob can actually be defined as the best water monster. So Blob's power is pretty high, 3476, that's the exact same power that Frostbite had. However, when we look at Blob, we normally see him as more of an attacker. His life is honestly rather poor, it's the lowest for water monsters, it's actually tied with White Walker, so both of them together have the lowest life stat. But then the best thing about Blob is his speed, 3509, that is the fastest base speed for any water monster. And his trait is Energized, he starts the game off with 20% extra energy. So the reason I say this monster has the potential to actually be the best water monster is because if you were to give this monster all speed runes and your enemy was to have all speed runes, Blob would be faster than the enemy if they're the exact same level runes. And actually, because the Blob's base speed is rather high, depending on the level runes you and your opponent have, let's say maybe your opponent has 3 level 5 runes and you only have 2 level 4 and a level 5, depending what water monster they have, the Blob may still be faster. So that's a huge advantage. And that's especially made clear when we look at skills like Fluid Smash, removes 100% of stamina from the target. So because Blob is the fastest water monster, that means he can go before any enemy immobilizer. So it doesn't matter if the enemy has a Kaolic, a Cavenfish, a Frostbite, a Blob with all speed runes is able to go first and drain all that stamina, which means the enemy won't be able to immobilize you. And if that's not enough, look at Liquid Strokes. It removes 50% of stamina from the target. So after you do Fluid Smash and the enemy monster recharges, you can drain that stamina right back down to 0. We move to the right and look at Wet Shards. It drains 25% of stamina and applies Stamina Leak. We look at Liquid Shards, removes 50% of stamina from all targets. So Fluid Smash, enemy stamina is down to 0. They recharge, have 50% of their stamina back. Nope, Liquid Strokes takes it away. They recharge again. Nope, Liquid Shards takes it away. They recharge again. Wet Shards takes most of it away. Blob is super good at immobilizing no single monster. In something like player versus player, if you partner him up with General Thetis, he becomes a lot more powerful because General Thetis can do stamina devours, and then you can end off with Liquid Shards, draining their stamina back to 0 once they recharge. But even in Team Wars, there's many situations when Blob can be the best. So think about a Team Wars involving Common, Fire, and Water. If you have all speedruns on your Blob, and he's gonna go first, and then the enemy has all speedruns on their Water monster, they're gonna go second, and let's say your Fire monster is faster than the enemy Fire monster, so then your Fire monster is gonna go third in the turn order, and then the enemy Fire monster is gonna go last. Now this is where picking an attacker with an immobilizing skill can come in handy, someone who's fast and can immobilize like Greedy Dragon. So with Blob you would do Fluid Smash on the enemy immobilizer, they're gonna have to recharge, your attacker goes. If your attacker can't finish off the enemy Fire monster in one hit, well then you stun them. The enemy Fire monster goes, then they're immobilized, and then it goes back to Blob. Blob can then proceed to do Liquid Strokes on the enemy immobilizer once again, or you can take the chance to do Liquid Shards, try to drain 50% of stamina from all the enemy monsters, wipe out the enemy Common, leave the Water monster with no stamina, leave the attacker with 50% less stamina, and then hopefully by then Greedy Dragon can wipe out the enemy attacker, and then you have a really good shot at getting 3 coins. So there are certainly situations in which Blob can be the best water monster. So that's why I wanted to talk about Blob, another monster I think really is worth buying. He's really going to come in handy in more higher level competitive playing, but he can certainly come in handy for all sorts of players. And so far we've gone through Fire, Nature, Earth, Thunder, Water, which means we still have 4 more elements to go: Dark, Magic, Light, and Metal. And because I've realized how long this video has been so far, I'm going to conclude it right now. This is going to be part 1 and I will be making a part 2, so stay tuned for that. So I hope so far everyone has really enjoyed part 1. Let me know what you think in the comments below, and don't go anywhere, part 2 should be uploaded very shortly.